open for vagrancy, California's homeless will be living high on the hog as LA's luxury high-rise shelter opens for business. The $165 million taxpayer-funded project is taking heat for coming with a bunch of sweet amenities like a gym, art and music room, and a library. LA Mayor Karen Bass knows those freebies will be controversial to most people, but she had this excuse.
The amenities that are here, I know, are going to be talked about in a way that is not so positive. A gym, music, art, recreation are all the things that are needed to heal, that are all a part of mental health.
So Jesse, who knew that a $600,000 condo with a gym was the way to solve homelessness in California, in LA?
My first place where I lived after college was $450 a month. It was at a fraternity house at the University of Pennsylvania, and there was a mouse. And my mother, my mother came to visit me, and there was a brownie on the side of the bedside table, and she looked at it, and it had little mouse nibble bites, and she goes, "Jesse Waters, I did not raise you to live like this." And I said, "Well, this is how I'm living, Mom. It's expensive." Next apartment was $950, and I think my parents helped me. And then later in life, I moved into a place which was $2,000 a month, and the bathroom was in the kitchen. That was here in Manhattan. So you're going now to a place that has more amenities than most of our producers that work on the show have. Libraries, gyms, most apartments in this city do not have these types of amenities. So you're now just rewarding bad behavior, and you're punishing good behavior, because all of the families that are saving and behaving and sober and living honorable lives are getting squeezed out of California by atrocious public policy.
So, Greg, what happens when all the people, the rich people in California who are paying for this, are going to leave California and they no longer have money to
then
build
there'll be more
like
rich people moving into California who can afford to stay there. That's how this is how the state's going to play out. You're going to have super rich and super poor and nothing in between. You could solve homelessness pretty easily. You enforce laws on loitering and vagrancy. You arrest those who don't comply. Those who are mentally ill go to a facility. Those incapacitated by drugs go into treatment and facilities. That will leave a tiny fraction of the homeless who aren't there by their own doing, and it's a tiny fraction, and they can get to shelters and they can get to services. But you can't get to the first step. I mean, you can't get to that last step for that tiny fraction until you go through those other ones. But that requires structured empathy. It's not, like you say, a feel-good, destructive imposter of empathy. You also need, and people don't talk about this, you need to get the mentally ill out of the city. If you want mental health, you don't treat mental illness in a loud, stressful area. They place sanitariums in the countryside for a reason. The scandal of homelessness is due to activists with no real-world experience applying the false empathy on a problem that calls for real empathy through boundaries, structure, enforced treatment, or immediate eviction. Tough love is what we called it, right? People who don't understand the concept of empathy should not be lecturing us on compassion, because your compassion is destroying people's lives. It's not about physical structures, because those will be wrecked in a year. It's about establishing boundaries and actually moral structures.
So, Judge, the Democratic politicians in California have stolen billions of dollars from the homeless industrial complex in California. In LA, they just released new results showing an increase in homelessness despite all of this money being spent.
Is that any surprise? This is not about the homeless. I want to know who got the contracts to build that building. I want to know who has the contracts to supervise in the building, to maintain and clean the building. Were these contracts true bid contracts, or were they no bid contracts? And then I want you to do a run and compare the contributions to campaigns. That's my first point. My second point is this. Of all these apartments, there's something like 275 of them. 40 of them, or 7%, are for veterans, the ones who put their lives on the line and were willing to go out of this country and give all for us. And we give it to the homeless and the drug addicts, who, as Greg has already said, they need some restrictions. They need to be in a non-city area. They can sublet these apartments, make some money, go out and buy drugs, and it can be a very dangerous situation. And in the end, why a high rise? These people are drug addicts, most of them. You know, you're going to make them sign a waiver of liability if they get high and fall off the building?
Maybe.
Vagrancy. Vagrancy. High on the hog. High on the hog. Freebie. Freebie. Fraternity. Fraternity. Nibble. Nibble. Sober. Sober. Atrocious. Atrocious. Loiter. Loiter. Incapacitated. Incapacitated. Sanitarium. Sanitarium. Wrecked. Wrecked.
If you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date with future videos. Thank you for watching.